Bava Metzia, page 18. We will start on page 17b, 7 lines from the bottom of the page. Rabbeinu Tam and many others ask a question over Almana me'erusin, which have a lot of applications to our days. In those days, as we learned in the past, they used to have two separate ceremonies. One for the, which we call betrothed or engagement, and the next one, which happened in those days in a far distance, was the act of marriage itself. One who betrothed, or in modern days you can call it engaged, there are certain restriction or connection between the parties, between soon-to-be bride and groom. If the soon-to-be husband, but in the Talmudic time it's already in some category full rights of husband, have the access of the agreement, part of that is the estate. What happened if the father of the bride gave nedunya, gave large sum, can be estate, can be cash, to the couple, and all of a sudden between the engagement or the betrothal and the final stage of marriage, she no longer among the living, she passed away. What exactly happened here? Generally speaking, it is a serious question that the rabbi struggle if the concept is biblical or rabbinic, meaning the idea of Baal Yoresh, the husband, inherit the estate of his wife. General motion of the rabbis is biblical. There are those who say that it's rabbinic, but be as it may, Rabbeinu Tam and others put in special enactment. Rabbeinu Tam is the grandson of Rashi. Rashi is about 10th, 11th century. So anyway, they put a special rabbinic ordinances, enactment. They said that only if approximate time, let's say 2 years from their final stage of marriage, then and only then the husband entitled to the entire estate. Then the next question, if he needs to return the nedunya, the money that the father of the groom puts, it means in full or in part, is based on the sugya we're going to study today. We're going to cover today many other subjects, such as onen, one who lost the loved one, especially when it's come to Kohen, 7 immediate family. Another subject we're going to visit is the kriyat get. Upon the divorce, there is a special procedure, such as tearing the bill of divorce and giving the new divorcee a letter from the Beit Din that approves her being newly single. Why they do that instead of giving her the bill of divorce. Another subject, God willing, we're going to discuss is the Hashavat Aveda, one who just find out some type of promissory note, contracts, and all kind of documents from bill of divorce and many others, when and where and how he is obligated to return it to those people who have those contracts and when not. So as you see, it's fascinating today, but let's start 7 lines from the bottom of 17b. Amar li Mar Kshisha b'li Rab Chizda l'Rab Ashi. The question is, where is the source that women that just engaged, just betrothed, and now she is widow, she received the ketubah. As you know, the rabbis put this idea of ketubah, the contract of marriage between husband and wife. So he asked, "Ve'almana min ha'erusim de'it la ketubah menala." Who can prove that you have a ma'aseh bedin, that you have this type of act, is t'nai bedin, is only being betrothed between the parties, between the groom and the bride, that betrothed, and something happened in between the time of the erusin and the nisuin and the marriage. How do you know that she deserved the ketubah? For those who are not familiar, again, under the chuppah there is a ketubah, or in Yiddish kesuba, and that marriage agreement that instituted by the rabbis require, in those days, for a woman that never had anybody before this man to commit himself in case of divorce or passing for 200 dinars. It's called zuz in those days. If she is already before have a marriage and she lost her husband, is a widow, she gets 100 dinars. So how do you know in a case of newly engaged couple that she deserved to receive a value of ketubah or ketubah in case the newly married, in between the time of engagement and marriage, he passed away, for example. Menala. Ilema, if you tell me, meha ditnan, what we learn, several places. The one who we know well, it's a page 54b in Tractate Ketubot. Again, for those who are not familiar, just a short minute of explanation. As we know, a structure in the Torah, man commit himself to give the ketubah, and the rabbis just based on the Torah enacted that she'erak suta ve'onata lo igra, the husband commit himself to certain things, protection and more. One of them is to support her. So that agreement, that contract is called ma'aseh bedin, something that the rabbis, the rabbinic court or the rabbis put it together in writing, and he needs to give her upon divorce or widow. If he claimed that he paid, so they said here that we cannot take his word for. Why? Because the idea is, as we learned yesterday in the past several dapim, that needs to have two important things. One is edim, witnesses, and the second a shtar, the document, the note that proves that. So here he asks a question, Ilema mehadetna, maybe the proof that a soon to be fully couple, but just man and woman that betrothed, and in between the period of the engagement and the marriage, he passed away. How do you know that there is a money that she deserved to receive as part of her ketubah? So they bring a source, as we said, from Gemara in Ketubot, page 54b. Nit'ar mela or nitgarsha. Here we have a situation, a general statement. You have her and him. Let's use name. Her name is Rivka and his name Yitzchak. Okay? So they either engage or get married. So if she lost him, nit'ar mela, which means she lost him, regardless, ben min ha'erusin, ben ha'nisuin, regardless if it happens between the engagement or after they already get married. So all this rabbinic enactment that requires the man to give the amount of ketubah go in a sense retroactively from the engagement, from the erusin. So that applied to the ketubah. And another important point, as Tosfot explained, we have the general idea of ketubah, which again is a marriage contract, and we have tosefet ketubah. Tosefet ketubah is something that, in a way, the husband, you can use the word voluntarily, offer, in addition to the traditional decorum, traditional way of giving, he adds some amount. So what do we derive from that? Because they use the word regardless, regardless if it's engagement or marriage, so therefore she get it. So this is not proof. Dilma heicha dechatavla. Here we may speak about a different scenario, that the husband really put in writing a marriage contract, and he wrote it earlier, almost prematurely. He wrote it when? He wrote it when they betroth. He already wrote the ketubah. So the question is, v'chitema mai lememra? So if that's the case, what's the big deal? In other words, just to simplify it, anyone can write a contract to anybody, and that person can commit himself to give something by contract to someone else. So the moment you have a contract, you have a written contract between parties. So obviously it goes without saying that she deserved to receive the money. But Le'apukei mid Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, this has to be something that we come out based on that Mishnah we quote, that regardless if it's an engagement or marriage, that there is a statement of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. What did he say? De'amar shelo katav la ela al menat lekonsa. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah wrote that the marriage contract was only on the condition that he will marry her. He did not intend to obligate himself in a situation where he died before the marriage. So again, what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah pointed out, he says the mindset, the original intent of Yitzchak when he gave Rivka the marriage contract, it was obvious that it's all based on the idea that they are soon, can be in a week, in 3 months, or whatever it is, they are going to be a full couple. So, as far as the chiyuv ketubah shita mekubetzet said, makes no difference. Contract is a contract, but Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah tried to get deeper in the original mindset of the, you call him groom, you call him husband. Okay, so it's tericha le. So therefore, it's necessary for the Mishnah to mention that a widow from the betrothal who has a written marriage contract, she collects the payment. Now the chidush here that if he's even lo katavla, he didn't wrote anything Yitzchak to Rivka, so it's a possibility yitachen that he doesn't need to pay anything. And Mark Shisha add to that. It has to be in that scenario that Yitzchak, we call him the husband for our understanding, wrote as his own initiation a marriage agreement, a ketubah. Daikan, we can precise that from deeply understanding, logical understanding of the language of the Mishnah itself. The katane, because we learn, gova et hakol, she collects all that she is entitled to. I amart bishlama dechatavla. If you tell me that the Mishnah is referring to a case where the husband wrote her marriage contract, then the question is, Hainu dekatanei gova et hakol. So now we understand what it means that she collects all that she is entitled, which means even the amount that the husband added to Sefet Ketubah to the main sum of the marriage contract. Ela I amart de lo katabla. But if you tell me that here we're referring to a case when the husband did not write her a marriage contract, a Ketubah, page 18, my gova et hakol. So the question is, what do you mean by saying that she entitled to all? Let's read Rashi. מאחר שלא התנה עמה כלום, מהו התוספת? If Rashi explained to us. If is no preconditions, no stipulations, no clear agreements between the party, he did not commit himself to anything, so why you said that she entitled to, what exactly you mean? Mane umatayim hu deitla, meaning if she is a widow, she entitled to 100 dinar. If she is a single, never married before, she is entitled to 200 dinar, but not tosefet ketubah, not the additional money, because he did not commit himself to anything, and the sages only enacted the 100 or 200 dinar. So you have to say that our scenario speaks about a situation that the husband really wrote a ketubah, a marriage agreement, and he commit himself while he have the general structure of the bill of marriage, in addition to more, which called tosefet ketubah, as we explained. So here we do not have a clear proof, clear indication that almana min ha'erusin, one she lost her soon-to-be full husband, the only betrothed, the sages enacted takanat ketubah, that she received ketubah. So the question is, what exactly you mean to say she collects all that she is entitled to? Or overall, you can argue and say, where is the source, as Mark Shisha asked earlier, that almana me'erusin, one, she is a widow from the time, between the time of engagement and marriage, she received ketubah. So Mark Shisha continue and ask, ve'ela, you said that the whole chiyuv ketubah, all the idea of marriage commitments upon the husband, of paying, it's come from the early stage, which is the time of the betrothed, midetani Rav Chia bar Ami. Here we bring a source from Rav Chia bar Ami, who said as follows: Ishto arusa lo onen velo metamela. Meaning, Yitzchak engaged to Rivka, he betrothed her. And then, unfortunately, she passed away. Hilchot Aninut, we learn that a person who lost his loved one, meaning one of the 7 immediate family, which is, the Torah tells us that it's father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter, and the spouse. And if you remember, we studied in Yevamot 73 and 74 and Zvachim 102, 100b, that commitment of onen, that obligation of one who basically free from the mitzvot and need to focus on the lost, and that applied to 7 immediate family. Now, do you call her immediate family? You can. Why? Because they're not total marriages. They just betrothed, they engage. So if he's a Kohen, we learn that based on the Torah in Leviticus, we learned in chapter 18, chapter 19 in Leviticus, that Kohen prohibited to be contacted with a corpse, with the deceased. Only the Torah said in Leviticus 21 that if is one of his 7 immediate family, he can contaminate it himself. And the wife is a derivative. They said ki im l'she'ero ha'karov elav, only to his closest in kin. And Gemara in Yevamot 22b derives the idea that She'er basar, the closest contact in the sense of blood, in that sense, it's the closest in kin is the spouse, meaning after they cohabited as a husband and wife. But if it's only betrothed to each other, she is not considering his closest in kin in the sense of contact, the body. So if he's a Kohen, if he's a priest, so in general he cannot contaminate it to her, cannot be impure, and is not take as 7 immediate family. It's one of the 7 because, as we said, they are not married in full yet. So that's, as we see, with the framework from all of that is we differentiate between husband and wife in the full scale of marriage versus a couple that engaged, and even the engagement in those days were much, in a sense, serious and committed, but still, as far as if he is a Kohen and she passed away, he cannot involve with the touching the body and things like that. Vechen he, and also you go the other way around, meaning if the betrothed, he betrothed her, and now Rivka, since she betrothed to Yitzchak, she lo onenet. She cannot be considered as fully spouse, fully wife, and therefore she doesn't have those hilchot onenut, the law of prohibition of being contact to a dead body, or a law of mourning that applies to onen. It's not applies to her. Velo mitam'a lo, and she also cannot ritually impure to her the funeral involvement, which is the taking care of the body and things like that, versus a normal married woman that she have a mitzvah to take care of the body. Now, the derivative, the Torah tells us, Daber el Aharon ve'el banav. The Almighty said to Moses, speak to Aaron and his sons, or Emorel Kohanim b'nei Aharon. So say to the priest, the Kohanim, sons of Aharon, and the derivative from that is, as we learn in several places, that it's a mitzvah of hitam'a bekorovim, that be in the ritual impurity of contact to the 7 immediate family, but this not applies to her, not by any means. Meta, if she passed away between the betrothed and married. Eino Yosha, so he cannot inherit her. And that's a painful subject, because if you look at the text in the book of Numbers, chapter 27, the Torah said that you should give, you should give the inheritance לשארו הקרוב אליו, to the closest in kin to the deceased, ממשפחתו וירש אותה. So the derivative here, that husband inherited his wife, but if she is only betrothed to him, is not part of she'er basar, and therefore Rashi explained that he is not inherited her. The more that you see in Gemara in Bava Batra, page 111. But the important point here, they tell us that the whole idea of full Yerusha applies after they are fully couples. And this, as we said earlier, when it's come to a married couple, is a disputation if it's a biblical or rabbinic. Most of the rabbis say that the inheritance is biblical. But as we said, Takanat Rabbeinu Tam, if it was between the betrothal and marriage, or if it's shortly after they got married, less than about 2 years, they hold that either in full or in part he is obligated to return. But anyway, met hu govak ktubta. However, if the husband passed away, so she collects the money of her ktubah. And what we derive from here, this is a widow, almana mina erusin, from the time of the betrothed. But the argument is, dilma de katavla. You may say that here specifically we are talking about a man, call him husband, that he wrote the ktubah, and he initiated all of that. However, when he is not, so you don't have rabbinic obligation, enactment for him to write it. It may be that yitachen shel ha'arusa en ktubah. It may be that they just betrothed, doesn't have the concept of ktubah. V'chitema dechatav la mai lemeimra. So if you tell me by a statement that v'chatav la, that he wrote to her, which means you have here some type of commitment, wrote a marriage contract to her, meta eno yorsha itzricha lei. So if it's necessary for Rav Chia Barami to state that if she dies, he does not inherit her property. Now, the Gemara basically somehow brings a makor, brings a source for ktubah mi erusin, to give the marriage contract from the early stage of erusin. But it's important to remember that the derivative here is the man that commit himself for something extraordinary that is not required by the framework of the dry law. I just want to digress based on that and bring you several points that's very much indirectly connected. In the old cities in Europe, was a city in Eastern Europe called Padua or Padua. And the rabbis there once allowed an adopted son to do all the act of mournings over adopted father, meaning it was a couple, couldn't have that child, they sent him to adoption, another couple took that child and raised him, and the father was not a biological father, but he was attached to him beyond words, and the non-biological father passed away. So the Padua Rav said, okay, he should do the whole act of mourning. Do the Keriah, do the Shiva, do the Shaloshim, do the Yer Kaddish. And other Rabbanim came and asked him, how come? That's not what the dry law requires. So he explained, even we know that there is a concept of kol hamelamed ben chaverot Torah keilu yelado. If someone teaches his fellow Torah, it's like biological father. But even with that, so he explained that sometimes when it's come to psikat halacha, it's not chova, it's not obligatory, but it makes more sense in the spirit of the Torah, because that couple doesn't have a children, and the biological parents don't mind, since they know how much effort the father, the late father, adopted father, puts for this child. So in order to encourage the widow, in order to give him a feeling of connectedness and more, so even it's not me'ikar adin, but sometimes you can do that. So the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, left if Almana Meusin, she received Ketubah. Again, you have to derive something from the understanding of the spirit of the law. And we know that B'yameinu nowadays, Erusin and Nisuin, most of the cases they are attached to each other. If you go by the Rambam said that Chupat Nida, it's not Chuppah. And therefore, Almana Meusin, if she's a widow from the time of engagement and her husband passed away, Chupat Nida lo kona. However, you can go by the spirit of understanding of the Rambam, and several rabbis said that it can be Almana min Erusin. Since we talk about spirit of understanding, I just want to add another small point. There's a famous saying that someone asked three well-known poskim in the past generation. It was Reb Chaim of Brisk, it was the Aruch HaShulchan, another rabbi. What is more the Asra? What is exactly community rabbis mean? So one of them said that is the Paskan, the one who give the letter of the law. Another one said that the rabbi's obligation is to teach people, to teach Torah. The Chaim of Brisk said no. He brought fascinating in life, and you see the same point in the Balatanya, that said that the meaning of Mar de Atra, that he said in Aigrot, Balatanya, that he has a special Reshut Mishamayim. He gets this kind of heavenly assistant, a spirit, to do what needed. And what's needed? So Chaim Brisk said, La'achayot lev nidka'im, meaning only the community rabbi who's on the pulse, on the feeling the pulse, feeling the essence, the inner feeling, the psyche and the inner feeling of average congregant or average community member, that person is the only one who's able to be practically Rav with Morad Asr that really understand and rules much deeper than just refer to people as a teacher and teach the halachot. So I think that spirit of the Rabbi of Padua, may rest in peace, have that same spirit, and it's based on our sugya. So as we said, we can go by the notion that the husband wrote to his wife a ketubah, that he initiated all that things from himself to Sefet, and therefore we don't have a clear proof that the sages enacted a ketubah for a widow mina Erusin for engaged, and Ela Amar Abaye migufa dematnitin kahadar bein. So here Abaye holds that there is a different reason. You see more on that if you look at Ketubot, page 88. And in a sense, here Abaye agreed to Rabbi Yochanan, is the Isal Kadatach, that if enter to your mind b'makom she'en kotvin ketubah askinan, if you tell me that here we're dealing with the place that where they do not write a marriage contract, where a woman's bill of divorce is effectively her marriage contract, and therefore she can use her bill of divorce to collect payment of her marriage contract, that does not make sense. The get haynu ktubta. Tosfot early on page 17b expand on that. To get maneh matayim ktiv. It's written on the get, in the bill of divorce, that the husband is liable to pay a wife 100 or 200 dinars she is owed. So how do you tell me that the bill of divorce and shtar ketubah are equal? V'chitema kevan etakinu rabanan lemigbale kiman dechtiv beidami. And if you tell me that since the sages instituted that she used the bill of divorce to collect the marriage contract, is considered as though the liability of the husband to pay 100 or 200 dinars is written on it, and it will still be problematic to say that the bill of divorce is sufficient for her to collect payment. Lit'on veleima parati. The husband should still be able to claim that he is exempt, and he said, I already paid her. Because her bill of divorce cannot prove that he did not pay his ktubah, his marriage agreement. וכיתימה דאמרינא להיפרתה באה אלייך למקרה. You said that you said that you should have torn up the bill of divorce. If you really paid, so the bill of divorce should be torn apart. אמר לה, the husband said, לא שבקתן. She did not let me tear. אמרה באינא לאינסו ואיבה. She says, what are you doing? She says, I need to prove to the next person I date, I meet another person, I need to prove that I'm single. So I need, in order for me to open a new chapter in my life, I need to have a bill of divorce, the get in my hand. Now, you cannot tear the get when he paid the ktubah, so the fact that she hold the get is not a proof that he not paid her. So why you don't take his word for? So this is something we need to learn. That when the Bet Din does the final process of divorce, so she hold the hands, he handed to her, she take the get, and then the Bet Din take it from her and tear it apart, and then give her a certificate that she is divorced. Obviously it has to come only from the Bet Din, not from neither of the party. So, Gita denan dikra'anuhu lo mishum de Gita psula. It's not because it was invalid that we turned. The reason we did it is because we want to avoid her reuse it a second time. Atu kol de miagbei bevedina magbei. Does everyone who collects payment of a marriage contract collect payment in rabbinic court where it's possible to write such a legal statement? So consequently, the suggestion that a get serves as a marriage contract remains untenable. So that basically leads us to the conclusion to say that the basis for the collecting payment of the marriage contract between the party it does not exist and has to be only in the court enactment. So that's basically follow the view of Rabbi Yochanan. And trace a situation that the husband said to her, listen, I'm extremely busy, I'm sending a shaliach, I'm sending someone on my behalf, that he's go to a scribe and he writes the get. So, as you see, Abaye went back and agreed with Rabbi Yochanan. And in our days, we have which called Cherem de Rabbeinu Tam. It's a special ban of Rabbeinu Tam that he puts that after the Kabbalat get, after she received the get, Bet Din tear the get and give her the document, a special statement from the Bet Din or Bini court that said that she is divorced. That's what explained to us that in every shtar chov, in every note, you cannot say I paid, because you can have the tiny shtar chav biyadi my buy. You need to tear it. So if you hold it, so it means that you didn't pay. But the get, you can't use that tanat parua because she wants to, as we said, she wants to be married again. And therefore, we leave the get by her, and so that's basically help siyat al Rabbi Yochanan. Nowadays, is the concept of shelo yotziu la'az al get, that no one challenge the validity of the get. Now going to the Mishnah, in the upcoming Mishnah dealing with השבת שטרות שנמצאו, if someone all of a sudden found a notes, different note, can be a bill of divorce, can be promissory note, can be all kind of court documentation, if that person is obligated to return it to those people it's written there or not. So now we are the Mishnah Dosha, page 18. The Mishnah continues with the Dinei Hashavot, the law when it's a lost item, found item and needs to return, and they bring a very important general rule. מצא גיטי נשים ושחרורי עבדים, די תיקי, מתנה ושוברין, אחרי זה לא יחזיר. Here, even the Mishnah speaks in a language of plural. It meant singular. For example, a get. A person found a get. Now, the interest can be the husband, the wife. In those days, it's important to note, it wasn't the form of bet din. Usually, a person go to a scribe and the husband and deliver it either directly or told a agent to his wife, a bill of divorce. Later on, they established the system, and it's a rabbinic court, and the manner of which one provide a get, it's told the bet din. But anyway, you see here a fellow, he walk in the market or a street, all of a sudden he found a bill of divorce. Another one is the special, a shtar shichur, a note that gives freedom to his servant. In those days it was a Canaanite servant, and one of the way the Maran Kiddushin 22 said is by giving him a bill of emancipation, meaning he is now free to go. Another one is the will. We learn in Gemara in Bava Batra, if you remember, and it's in other location, they said that divrei shchiv mera ki chtuvim uchvechim surim damei. Gemara in Bava Batra 147b said that one in a breach of death, you, if he's coherent, obviously, we take after the very last will and testament decision. So it can be that the person, even close to the end, said that something goes to someone and then change his mind and go elsewhere. So the whole ma'aseh kinyan, the whole transactions of transferring the estate based on the will depend on the very last one. And since you do not know if that was the wishes of the person, so you not returning it. Part of the condition, we learned in several occasions in Shas, we see it, for example, later on in Bava Metzia 27b, that the one who found the item, he needs to search very diligently to make sure that it's really, if it's a question, husband-wife, a owner or the free servant, a will of a person and things like that, you have to make sure that you return to the right person. And since it's a question who, it's a big dilemma, you don't return it. Or another one is matana, a person who's healthy, just write a bill giving estate to someone else. Vishovrin, it's like a receipt that show that someone else paid in full or in part his debt. So the Mishnah make an important statement, and it said, "Harezo lo yachzir," meaning you're not allowed to return that note. It can be bill of divorce, can be a will, any one of those lists, to neither one of them, because you do not know. So in that sense, the woman remain eshet ish, remain in a status of married woman, because you do not know. As much as the Pnei Yoshua try to struggle, saying that it's leading to the assumption that it's hair, but as long as you don't have the 100% assurance that it's hair, you don't return it. The grandfather of the Pnei Yoshua was the responsa called Shelot V'Tshuvot Pnei Yoshua, which was the grandfather. So he has questioned based on our Mishnah, why in the Shovarim, in the receive, you don't say Hamotzi Mechavero Alav Haraya, the burden of proof, be upon the one who claim it. If you have a shtar shemistovev, if you have a bill that's running around, you have to bring a ra'aya, a proof that this shovar, that this receipt is not used. So he tried to say en safek motzi midei vadai, but be as it may, the Mishnah ended by saying שאני אומר כתובים היו ונמלך עליהן שלא ניתנם, that we have the assumption that it may happen that they were written and then the writer reconsidered about them and decided not to deliver them. It may lost it. The whole idea, Ktsot HaChoshen, in chapter 12, expand on that. And he said that as long as it's not 100% clear, because the whole Maaseh Kinyan is Mesirat HaShtar, the time you transfer the document to the other party, so therefore it may happen that he changes his mind and reconsiders. So as long as he's not clear about it, you don't know בוודאות שנעשה מעשה, you don't know 100% of that happened, לא יחזיר, you don't return. Now, the Gemara explained all the different scenarios. As we said, we talk about get, we talk about will, we talk about a shtar shichur eved, we talk about different scenario, gift. The Gemara start with the get. The Gemara start with the question, or to expand, medayek, ta'ama, the reason you do not return the get to the wife, it's because we are concerned the nimlach shelo nitlach. It happens. The husband changed his mind. He take it back, reconsider, whatever the reason is, and he decided, and we cannot force him, right? So he decided not to divorce her. Ha'amal, but if the husband said to the fellow who presented to him the get, and he said, Tnu, when he heard that this guy found it, he says, give it to her, because I want to divorce her right now. Notnin, so therefore, she can be divorced. By the Meiri explained that usually the owner of the note have that note, not the one who wrote it. But here we assume that he had it and he intended to do it, and it's just somehow while walking or whatever it is, he lost it. But if he insisted that, yes, take it and give it to her, so notnim, you give it to her. Va'afilu lizman merubeh. And the chidush here that even if a long time passed since it was lost, and there is no concern that perhaps the document belongs to someone else with the same name. And this is a discussion that we explained later, or you see it based on the Mishnah in Gittin 27, that one of the conditions is to be very clear in the specification of the get. So we here would arrive that if the husband said, give it to her and I don't need it, just take it and give it to her and she will be divorced with that, we'll do that. But the second chidush, as we said, that even it was extension of time between the date of the lost and the moment that was found, we are not concerned that maybe someone else with the same name lost it and maybe it's not him. Tosfot expand on that. Anyway, later on, if time allows, we'll go to the Khatam Sofer. We expand on that question. People ask him about same city. Can have two bells or two Eisenstadt, or there's all kind of names that can be more than one. Yerushalayim, there are a few places in the world that call Yerushalayim. So how you treat a situation like that? They have the same name, the same people's name, and more. But let's go further. The Gemara challenge that Veraminhu, bring a stira, bring a contradiction from Mishnah in Tractate Gittin, page 27. So now the Gemara asks a question based on the brief in Mishnah in Gittin 27, a tiny bit introduction, where we are and where we are going to. So far what we said if a person found an old get, so it's okay to use it. Here they bring a Mishnah in Tractate Gittin the Mishnah speaks about a shaliach, an agent, an emissary of the husband. That fellow went, let's call name the husband Yitzchak. He sent a friend of his, David, to go and hand it over to Rivka the get. He lost the get. Now, the name of the get was written, especially in those days, David ben Yishai, divorcing Rivka bat Chaim. And all of a sudden, David lost it. And then, shortly afterward, he found it. Now, over there, the Mishnah said, is a problematic. You cannot use it. Why? Because it can be two people, both name of a person and his father, name of the wife and her father, identical. Let's see it in the text. Veraminhu, this is the Mishnah in Gittin 27. Hamevi get ve'avad heimenu. This fellow David was sent by Yitzchak to hand it over get to soon to be divorced Rivka. But all of a sudden he lost it. He cannot find the get prior to give it to Rivka. Metzia or le'artar kasher. If David, just a matter of 2 minutes, many minutes, very short time, he found it, we have the either Umdena or other form, but Rashi and other Mefarshim said that it's okay, it's kasher, it's valid. V'im lav, and kasher meaning that you're not concerned maybe it's another get. V'im lav, if it passed time, meaning it wasn't just a matter of short period, pasul, it's not valid. Why? Obviously you're concerned. Can be the identical name of the person or persons in two different gets. Now, if you juxtapose our text and the text in Mishnah in Gittin 27, you get to conclusion that is a total contradiction, because let's understand what we said so far, that even in past time, it's okay to use that get. Here, in a scenario that it lost, for the reason of identification, we assume that it can be someone else's get, and therefore he cannot use it. Amar Rabba lo kasher. Rabba said it's two different avenues in two different Mishnayot, and it's not contradiction. It's like in a modern day, lucidly English, you can say apple and orange. So two different things. Kan, in the Mishnah in Gittin 27, they speak about b'makom shehashayarot metzuyot. Those days, they used to have caravans with wagons and horses. They used to go from one location to another. So it's possibility that while there are caravans passing through, there is concern that it found the get belonged to someone else with identical name. However, kan, in our place, b'makom she'ein shayarot metzuyot, we talk about a location that you don't have this form of transportation that's constantly moving around, like modern days, a place that is a lot of buses coming in and out. Those days was a caravan that traveled from one location to another. So if it's a place that is not common to have those caravans, therefore we assume that it's okay and she can divorce. So here we come out with the idea that the busy location with caravan is very different by the form of halacha when it's come to Gittin versus place that is quiet and it's not busy with moving caravan. If you remember, when we studied in Gittin 28, The Gemara said the Ritual and Rashba want to emphasize that if the person just stay in that location and no one passes that location, they need to investigate. But anyway, the Gemara add to what Rabat said, and they said, "Ve'afilu b'makom she'ashayarot metzuyot," and even in the place where the caravan passing through are really common, there is not always a concern that the get may belong to another man with identical name. והוא שהוחזקו שני יוסף בן שמעון בעיר אחת. If you talk about well-known knowledge in the entire city or village, everyone knows that there are two people who have the exact same name. For example, Yosef, son of Shimon. So if it's a situation like that, then we assume that since everyone called them both the same way, the same thing, and the wife is the same name, so therefore we treat them this way. There is a wonderful book, old friend of mine, Rabbi Yirmiyahu Benovitz Shlita. He's a rabbi in Baltimore, part of Israel Yeshiva in Baltimore. When I used to be a community rabbi in Maryland for 15 years, we used to study and we used to be very active together. He wrote several books. Some of them specialized, since he's a Safra Dedaina in a Besdin in Baltimore, he wrote several books in regards to this. And specifically in this sugya, he expanded a lot of identification of names and more. Anyway, the I lo teimahachi, if you do not say so, that this concern is taken into account only in a place where it is known that there are two people with the same name, then kasher de rabba ad de rabba. So here you have a contradiction between two statements of Rabbah. Now, the Maharshal, which is the great Rabbi Yamshel Shlomo and unbelievable community rabbi in those years in Europe, he has in his responsa, Maharshal Dan, if you have a case like that, if you have Yitzchak ben Abraham and you have Rivka bat Sarah, meaning you have two people, husband, wife, that have same identical names of both husband and wife, should we add to the name the grandfather, or should they start those days to have a last family name? Should we add that to the get? Based on that response of Maharshal, the Chatam Sofer, the great Hungarian rabbi, he brings the Gemara in Ktubot that speaks about Heikel. When it's come to Ktubah, to marriage agreement, we need to have Hekel, and part of the Hekel, meaning part of the recognition, the Chatam Sofer said it should be the last name, the family name. So that's part of the recognition of those documentation. But anyway, the Gemara said, Dehahu gita de ishtekach beidina de Rav Huna. That it was one case of a get that found in Bet Din of Rav Huna, and Rav Huna was one of the prominent rabbi, and it was a place that was a lot of caravans coming in and out. The Hava Katuv Bey, that was spelled out in the text of the get, that, for example, Yosef, son of Shimon, Beshvirei Mata de Al Rachis Nahara. That here we have a clear place, written a Shvitei city, which is located on Rachish River. So here, the Ibn Ezer in Shulchan Aruch in 128 said that that's part of the requirement in the bill of divorce, and you get to spell out the location. For example, the river that attached to that city. And Pilchei Tshuva, chapter 9, expand on the importance to put the boundaries and make sure that it's correct, that it comes out clear, and not have any challenge or laws against the get validity. So one of the people in that town sent it, and that was the names of the get, and he claimed that he lost it. So now they found it. Rabbi Kiva asked, how do you know that he is the agent? But anyway, Amar Rav Huna. So Rav Huna said about all of these cases, he said, page 18b, Chayshinan, here we are concerned, Lishnei Shvire, meaning we are concerned that there are maybe two cities by the name of Shvire, and here you see two different avenues. One is the Rashash, and the opposite is Rashi. Rashash claimed that Rav Huna recited in the Shon She'ela, that he asked a question mark. Is that possible? That there is another city with the same name? Versus Rashi said, it's Lashon Hoda'ah, is like a statement that there is a city by that name. Tosfot expand on that. But anyway, Ve'amar leRav Chizda leRabba, since both of them were disciples of Rav Huna, Puk ayen ba, come and search this halacha, Dele'urta ba'em minach Rav Huna. Guess what happened? This is the giancy of the rabbis, ingenuity. He says, guess what? Rav Huna is going to ask you in regards to this in the evening. Meaning, even Rav Huna already rules that we're concerned about two identical name of cities. Rav Chizda understood, since it's a kind of new halacha, maybe he wants to examine and check what Rabbah said, if he knows how to rule. Anyway, Nafak, Rabbah left. So the Rabbi Akiva in Gittin 27 said that he left everything, all the other thought, and he visited this subject, Rabbah, to the end to make sure that he say it correctly. Dak ve'ashkach, so he came and he discovered a relevant source, and we learned in the Mishnah, page 20, Kol ditnan, kol ma'aseh bedin, harei ze yachzir. Anytime that you have any of rabbinic court enactment, which means that there is a permissory note that has been authenticated by the rabbinic court to its owner, since the bill of divorce was found in the rabbinic court, it is in the category and must be returned. Now, there is a Tosfot, Hibura Matchil Nafak, you see it also in Tosfot in Gittin 27, that explain two different avenues, our Sugya. One speaks about typical case when the wife come and she adamantly requested the get. She says that she divorced, she lost it, and we assume since it was in a bet din, it again underlines the assumption that he didn't left the husband before he handed to her, because only when she accepted she can follow and have it. Versus the husband, he may change his mind and not follow. Another avenue, it says that the shaliach, the agent that represents the husband, lost it. And now the agent, the shaliach, came and he asked to fulfill his mission, his call, to hand it to her and to divorce her. And therefore you return it to the shaliach. Anyway, if you have time, look both in Tosfot there, Gittin 27 and here, and you see also if you have the ability to examine the Mishnah in Gittin 32. Anyway, the Ha-Beidina de Rav Huna. So now the Gemara expand on the question of the Rabbah, contradiction on the Rabbah. So they said the rabbinic court of Rav Huna is comparable to a place where passing caravans are coming. וכי מקום שהשערות מצויות בו דמי, וכפשית רבה דיחזיר. So even Rabbah rules that he should return to one who claimed that it's his and is not concerned that it may belong to someone else. That's basically contradict what he said earlier, that he holds that the Mishnah in Gittin applies to a place that you have a very common moving of caravans, and there he said that it may be the get of someone else. The Gemara concluded, Alma ihuchzeku shnei Yosef ben Shimon, if there is a city that we have this knowledge that there are two different people who carries the same name and the father's name so then we have a concern. Ve'ilo, lo. But if it's a place that is no two people that carry the same name, we don't have this concern. So therefore, since Rabbah said that we're not concerned about two cities by the name of Shvirei, that's the reason why we're allowed to return. Practically speaking, nowadays, many responsa, I meant really many rabbinic responsa, dealing with that concern of two locations that carries the same name or two people carries the same name. One of many books is my dear friend Rabbi Benowitz, who wrote Tiv Gittin and other books on Gittin that expand on this sugya. Now the Gemara brings a psak halacha of Rabbah in this matter. Avad Rabbah uvda. So Rabbah make a rule, which means he rules halacha lemaaseh. Now it's a two avenues. There is one that have this be'ahu gita de ishtekach, and some omitted. Maharshal and Rashash, but anyway, Beit Kitana, that the place that it's a flax house in the city, well-known city, the Fumpedita, Kishma'atei, follow the way he instructed that the get should be returned. So it means, again, we call it two requirements. One, place that you have always a caravan moving. Two, that you have two people who has equal same names. So that place don't have one of those two conditions, so therefore he rules that they should return the get to one who claimed for it. Ikad Amrei, there are those who say that the place where you have Beit Kitana, the soap flask, Heicha Dim Zabnei Kitana. So that's specifically because the place that they sell is soak flax. Vehu shelo huchzeku, that you do not have the names two people of Yosef ben Shimon, and therefore Rava ruled to return the get. Af al gav dishchichin shayarta, despite the fact that passing caravans are coming there. Meaning, if it was two people with the same Yosef ben Shimon's name, you cannot return because they have these two conditions: caravans coming and two people with names. Second opinion, Ika de Amre, may you can say that it's a cool place Eicha de Taruki Tana, where people saw flags. In the return that get and should be returned, even though it was established there that there were two couples with the same name living in a city where the get was written, the lo shchicha she'ero, the other way around, because it wasn't common of passing caravan. So, as we learn, we need the two conditions. The great rabbi in Czechoslovakia and Europe, Rabbi Landau, Noda Biuda, the one who wrote a responsa, prolific author, he had a discussion with another great giant rabbi, Rabbi Zcharia Ivanitz. They're together in the early stage, compete over the chief rabbinate there. But anyway, they befriended. The question in Halacha, the Noda Biuda discuss if someone nidon bitliya. In those days, there are people who the government rules that they need to be hanged, need to be executed. So people get to that fellow who's a married man, and they try to identify that person. And the question is, they not fully identified him. The question is, his wife, can they allow her to get married upon these witnesses? Because it was unfortunately heard, is not unheard of, that some people send their friends to sub for them. Even in those days sounds real, but substitute for them to get this type of hanging and execution. So the question is, in bring Yerushalmi and more, maybe they can take somebody who willing to do it or whatever it is. Maybe the executioners, the Talyanim, maybe there are bribes. And here part of the Noda Biuda is based on our sugya, because if you go here by the Rabbah's statement, you can argue and you can say that you need to have these two tnaim, two conditions. If it's makom shuchzeku shno Yosef ben Shimon, a place that you have two Yosef ben Shimon, or shchiche shayarot. Anyway, based on our sugya, I tried to have this assumption. So it was a dialogue between Rav Zerach Ibenitz and Noda Biuda over that person, if we matter his wife, based on our sugya. Anyway, Rabbi Zer Rami Matnitina Batraita Umeshani Tnan Hamevi Get Ve'avad Emenu. So here you have the agent of the husband who brought the get, and he lost it. Meci'ah le'altar kasher. If it was, as we said, in a close time of the loss, so it's valid. V'imla, if after a long time, pasul, cannot use it to divorce. ואמין אם מצא גט אישה בשוק, ולא תוספתא בזמן שהבעל מודה יחזיר לאישה. If the husband required, said he wants to divorce her, so he returned to the wife. And הבעל מודה לא יחזיר לו לזה ולזה. The husband not agreed, so he shouldn't return it to neither one of them. קטנה מיד בזמן שהבעל מודה יחזיר לאישה, ואפילו לזמן מעובד. The other one said that even after a long time, if the husband agree upon, should return to the wife. So Bizera will explain, Mishane kan in Gitin bekom shasharot mitzuyot, bekan bekom shein shasharot mitzuyot. Again, we say mahalach. We speak about the place that is a common to have caravans moving versus a place that it's not. So if it's not common to their movings, and even it's a long time, we're not concerned that it's someone else's. V'ikadam levushu chziku delo nehedar v'hainu deraba. So there is another possibility that it applies specifically in a case where it is established that there are two couples in the town with the same names, and v'hainu deraba, And that's, Rabbi Zera holds that the get should not be returned. And this is same rule in case Rabba. There's those who said in place where passing caravan are common, even if it's not established that there are two couples with the same names, the get should not be returned, and Rabbi Zera disagrees with the ruling of Rabbah. So the Gemara asks, Bishlama Rabbah lo amar ki Rabbi Zera מדית עליהם על אלה הקשוי, אלא רבי זרע מייתמה לא אמר כרבא. אמר לך, respond to you, מי קטן אמר תנו נותנים, ואפילו לזמן מרובה. דילמה אמר תנו נותנים, ולעולם דקיים אלן. So Rashi here said, אבל ברייתא לקה לשינוי היכא דכיוון דתנא בעדיא יחזיר לאישה, הבל לפלוגי בין לאתר בין לזמן מרובה, דלאומית דמי למתניתין דאתם לא יחזיר תנא. Okay, but anyway, this one to come in the Khatam Sofer. It was a fellow that came, it's famous Teshuva, Khatam Sofer. He says a fellow came and said that he's from Eisenstadt. And he claimed that he lost his business, he's in a state of bankruptcy, and then he passed away. So do you take his edut, his statement, and allow his wife to get married, because there are in those days two cities by the name of Eisenstadt, and Khatam Sofer expand this teshuva is one of these longest teshuvas. Response are based on the Gemara. We have, I'm assuming that the people who watch know this famous song, "My Shtetale Bells," right? So there is at least two bells. There is a Polish bells and there is a Romanian bells. The one that you hear singers sing, "My Shtetale Bells," they apply it to Romania. But there is another bells that biggest tzaddikim, biggest Hasidic rabbis, one of them really adopted and raised my late father's father, grandfather, by the previous bells Rebbe. So anyway, there are two different locations of bells. So again, the Khatam Sofer asks how far you should be concerned, because if you look at the Torah in the Parshat Eglah Rufa in Chumash Dvarim, they speak about in the case of death, the elder go to the Ira Krova El HaChalal, the city that is close in the sense of proximity to the corpse. So therefore, based on our sugya, how you treated the late Satmar Rebbe, asked the community rabbi, the Rav Epstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he asked him, based on more in Erchim, they said that there are two Yerushalayim. Yes, so we were saying during davening, we were doing prayer 3 times a day, right? For Yerushalayim, Ircha, Rachamim Teshu. So we mentioned Yerushalayim several, and there are several places in Yerushalayim. So he asked, if you have same name in few different locations, when it's come to these crucial issues of the right of bill of divorce, how you treat it based on our sugya. Anyway, let's just continue. למאן דאמר לרבי זרע, מקום של שעות מצויות, לא אבל גם שלא הוחזקו שני יוסף בן שמעון בפליגה דרבא, מייקל מפליגה. רבה סבר דקתן לכל מעשה בדין, based on המשנה, page 20, הרי זה יחזיר את השתקף בדין הסקינה. בדין מקום של שעות מצויות, והוא שהוחזקו לא יחזיר, אם לא הוחזקו יחזיר. רב זרע אמר לך, מקטן לכל מעשה בדין שנמצאו בבית דין, כל מעשה בדין יחזיר קטן, אולם להשתכח אבראי. The late Diane Weiss, Minchat Yitzchak, and the late Fisher, when I used to live in Arnof, who was the prosec there, they ask if a person walking the shul and he leaves his coat, leaves towel, leaves other items that people leave, and you return, but there are many, same coat, same hat, same, and he's not sure which one is his. How you treat it based on our umdana and sugya, and he brings souls from our sugya. Anyway, both of them, Minchat Yitzchak and official. Rabbi Yomi אמר, Rabbi Yomi bring another תירוץ, כגון כאמרי העידים, מעולם לא חתמנו על הגט אחד של יוסף בן שמעון, יחד מה אלממרה, מהו ליתם עליך ושתדמה יתרא משמע כשמע, ועידים כעידים כמשמע רש"י אמר, קורון כאמר נקב יש בו בצד עוד פלונית, ודווקא בצד עוד פלונית, אבל נקב בעלמא, רב אשי מספקא ליה, סימנים אין דאורייתא, אין דרבנן. So, based on this ספק, if it's דאורייתא דרבנן, you cannot return the get, and based on that there's the discussion, page 27, in החשבת אבידה, how you treated the Tosfot, in page 19, said that that's דווקא בממונות. You have simonim, but when it's a issue of the older Rabbanot is the Rabbanan, and it's different versus the get, that is the issue of the Oraita. Rabbi Akiva Eiger said that the chashash of that's the simanim, as the Tosfot said, that is the Rabbanon. And he explained, since the Isurei Shadish, it's chamur, it's serious biblical prohibition of Eshetish, so therefore only siman mubhak, only something that is absolute siman that's good, is good d'oraita. Otherwise, you cannot return it just based on a statement. It has to be, which we call total siman mubhak, something that you know 100% that it's like a clear cut. And that's the item. If it's questioned, you cannot go by that.